Chuck Schumer is a famous Jewish politician, a New York State senator, and the Senate Majority Leader. But if you want to see somebody get up and undermine Israel's sovereignty and Israel's democracy, here's a speech that he recently gave.
As a lifelong supporter of Israel, it has become clear to me the Netanyahu coalition no longer fits the needs of Israel after October 7th. The world has changed radically since then, and the Israeli people are being stifled right now by a governing vision that is stuck in the past.
Well, that's weird because the Israelis are saying in poll after poll that they support a strong war against Hamas in Gaza. They support going into Rafah. They support making a fight to the end against the terrorists. And really, this thing that Chuck Schumer is saying that we deserve better, that's not what we think. But Chuck Schumer knows better because he's a lifelong supporter, not an Israeli. He doesn't have kids in the army, right? His kids are not facing the enemy on the front line. But he knows better because he's a lifelong supporter.
Nobody expects Prime Minister Netanyahu to do the things that must be done to break the cycle of violence, to preserve Israel's credibility on the world stage, and to...
I thought that breaking the cycle of violence is done through destroying the violent people who want to be violent upon Israel, right? Destroying our enemies. I think that's the best way to get rid of the cycle of violence. Get rid of the bad guys, the neo-Nazis of today who want to destroy Israel, who called to destroy Israel, who made this unbelievable attack against us. And yet somehow Chuck Schumer thinks that by kicking out the Netanyahu government, and probably he's going to say next that he also wants us to cut our land in half, right? That's the way to solve the problems around here, by being weak on terrorists, getting rid of our elected government, and giving our land to our enemies.
Work towards a two-state solution.
Oh, there you go.
If he were to disavow Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and kick them out of his governing coalition, that would be a real meaningful step forward. But regrettably, there's no reason to believe.
How did these ministers become ministers? Oh, yeah, the Israeli people voted for them. They voted for them. Chuck, we the people voted for our leaders. It's not Prime Minister Netanyahu. You know, he's not a puppeteer around here. The people voted for him. Have respect for our democracy and the will of our people. We're on the ground here. We know who we need to lead us.
I believe Prime Minister Netanyahu would do that. He won't disavow Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in their calls for Israelis to drive Palestinians out of Gaza and the West Bank. He won't.
We want to drive away the jihadis. We want to drive away the jihadis and refugees that want a different life somewhere else. They should also be given the right to leave this area. But we don't want to drive away average, decent people, but the jihadis got to go. And most Israelis agree with that.
Commit to a military operation in Rafah that prioritizes protecting civilian life.
That's right. We want to prioritize getting rid of combatant life, right? We want to try to destroy the Hamas. We're not going to prioritize civilian life. That's called peace. That's called normal life. This is war. War, you don't prioritize civilian life. You prioritize to destroy your enemies. Don't you know what war is, Chuck?
He won't engage responsibly in discussions about a day-after plan for Gaza and a longer-term pathway to peace.
What's the longer-term pathway to peace? Is it to give away our land and to let the terrorists take it over? Or is it that Israel should rule in sovereignty, have sovereignty in Gaza, have sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, what's known as the West Bank? Okay, that's the only way to do it. A bigger and stronger Israel is the only way forward. But Chuck Schumer is undermining our land and our elected officials. He's undermining Israeli sovereignty. And this man, who's a lifelong supporter of Israel, is endangering us because he is calling on the United States to put pressure on Israel to get rid of its democratically elected government and to give away its land. No thanks, Chuck. You're on the wrong side of history here. You're the one you're the type of leadership that has to go. You're exactly the old fuddy-duddy leadership that should not be around telling Israel what to do. Run your own country. Take care of your business. And just because you do it as a lifelong friend of Israel or as a Jew, that's not good enough. You're not on the front line and you won't make decisions for our country.